Happy Friday. Before we start, though, I got two words for you this week: fall fiesta. Super stoked. Saturday, November 11th. Come on out. Incredible live music, catered by McDavid Tacos. All you could eat, open bar. Help us raise money for Conscious Alliance. It's going to be ridiculous. I'm super stoked. First time ever doing it on a Saturday. It's going to be incredible. Friday market update. What do we got going on in the world? Let's see. So Monday this week we had yields on the 10-year Treasury pushing 5%. The reason why this is important is because if we get to an area that we level off where investors feel like they could invest in bonds, and these bonds that they invest in this 5% range are going to pay a high rate of return over the next 10 years, because 5% is actually a high amount to have a very stable rate of return. At some point in time, you're going to see more buying in this area, and it will cause mortgage rates to move lower. You know, we haven't seen a level like this since 2007. Yields are expected to move lower at some point in time. I don't know when, but it's something that's on people's mind, and we have to watch out for that. We also got some feedback on auto delinquencies. This is late payments on car payments. This is up to 6.7% right now. It's the highest level it's ever been. So unfortunately, we're starting to see more and more delinquencies on auto loan payments. We also got some feedback from Redfin. This is about inventory. I said the listings were up 1.2%. I just want to show you something here. You know, if you watch these updates at all and you look at last year, we went through the same exact thing last year, which is looking at inventory levels. So every single year, you're going to see inventory start to build around this time of the year, and then it crests, and then you start to see it move lower. You look all the way back. It can go farther, but this chart just goes back to 2013, and it just shows you every single year. Spike of inventory moves lower. Spike of inventory moves lower. Every single year, it's a predictable process. So right now, what's crazy to see is, yeah, we've had a spike in inventory like we always do. And spike's probably a poor choice of words because it hasn't been that much, an increase of inventory. But you look at our inventory levels compared to every other year, pre-pandemic, et cetera, we're at extremely low levels of inventory. So I'm not surprised to see this again. We're going to continue to see this. You're going to see inventory build. It happens every single year. The media is going to jump all over it. But all the way back to 2014, this chart, same thing happens. Inventory builds. Spring comes. Home buyers come. Inventory goes down. Super predictable, but that's what it is. Tuesday this week, we also had Bill Ackman announce that he was selling his short on bonds. This is really important to hear and to know about. So selling his short on bonds means that he had a bet placed against the bond market, and his bet basically said, I think yields are going to keep moving higher. And he got to a point to where he said, okay, well, I don't know that yields are going to keep moving higher. I think we're in a spot now that we should sell. So he sold. He made $200 million in one day off this sale. But the purpose of the sale was because he thought that he won't see bond yields move higher, and he was exiting out of his short position. And it was good to see because it's favorable, again, for interest rates. Thursday this week, we got pending home sales. Pending home sales were expected to be down 2%. Pending home sales were actually up 1%. So a stronger than expected report. Yes, we totally understand that affordability is a challenge this year. If you think about it, mortgage rates are pushing 8%. There's a low inventory. Home prices are higher. Imagine when rates come down, though, what's going to happen in the marketplace. Rates will move lower. You're going to see this, but we're still seeing strength in the housing market, and you're still seeing pending home sales giving you a better report than what was expected. It's not blockbuster. It's not blowing people away, but values are holding in a sustainable report, and it's really good to see. We also got our first reading on Q3 GDP. So we get 3 readings on GDP. This is really telling us about the strength of the economy. It came back better than expected. The range and the expectation was that the economy would grow between 4.3 and 4.5%. The growth on the first reading came out at 4.9%. First of all, this is only the first reading of 3. They do change over time. We're gonna have to keep an eye on this, but a lot of people, this wasn't as market moving as it could because a lot of people think potentially that the economy is not as strong as it seems and it's not sustainable. So looking back at Q3, and then going forward, it just doesn't seem like it's as sustainable. We're going to talk more about that in a minute and why we think that. Also, we got some feedback from other central banks. So we have the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell. He's the one that speaks, and he's the one that puts out the press conference of hiking rates. But all the developed countries around the world have their own version of a central bank. The Canadian central bank came out this week, and they said that they were going to pause on hiking rates. And then you had Christine Lagarde come out. She's with the European Central Bank. And after 10 straight rate hikes, they paused. And they said they look like they're seeing a shift in inflation. And it just seems like there's a general shift in the tone of central banks around the world pausing on their rate hikes. We have a Federal Reserve meeting coming up next week. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Personally, I think they're going to pause on the rate hike, but the general tone around the world right now, pausing on rate hikes, and that potentially the economy is not as strong as everyone thinks. Friday this week, today, we get the PCE. That's the personal consumption expenditure. This is the Federal Reserve's favorite gauge of inflation. So we get two inflation reports every month. We get the CPI report. We got that one like 2 weeks ago. The PCE is not as market moving because we already got CPI. Typically, the numbers in the PCE report align with CPI, so we don't usually see market movers here. But it's interesting to see we had an inflation move from 3.9% down to 3.7%. And it's kind of in line with what expectations were, but we also got consumer spending, something we have to watch out for. Consumers now are spending more than they're saving. Actually, our savings levels are at historic lows right now. Credit card debt is at an all-time high. Auto delinquencies now are at an all-time high of 6.7%. So hopefully the Federal Reserve is seeing this and they're going to make decisions going forward, because what you don't want to do is crash your car into the brick wall and then touch the brakes because you're too late. And that's what the Federal Reserve does. Boom, bust, cycles every time. Here we are again. We have to keep an eye on it. But the challenge is the unfortunate reality is that the strength of the U.S. economy is showing weakening. You're seeing it across the board. Hopefully the Federal Reserve sees this and they pay attention to it. Hopefully they have some comments about their Fed rate hike this year, this next week, excuse me. It's a pause. We'll have to see what happens going forward. But I really hope they're seeing the signs and the writing on the wall. I'm around all weekend. If you have any questions, let me know. If you want to learn how we're closing purchase transactions in 15 days, give me a call. I'm available 7 days a week. Call me anytime. Try me. I bet you get me. Have a great day.